And good morning, everybody. Welcome to our seventh and penultimate episode of Cluttered Talk, the new normal. How weird, the new normal? Is it the new normal? Is it all changing? Anyway, who knows? I'm going to now invite Elaine and Clara to turn their videos on and their sound on and welcome them to the Zoom living space. Hello, Clara. Hello, Elaine.
Hello. Morning.
How is everybody doing?
Good. Yes, thank you. So I was doing the introductions this morning. So there's Louis introducing himself as well. Sorry. So you're being hosted by Dr. Zem Moffat from Insightful Moves, who has a special interest in alleviating social isolation. She developed and leads Clutter Chat. And is an all-round wonderful person, and we love her. And Elaine McKinlay from Clear Mountains, who has a background in education and sports coaching, and who has a special interest in lifestyle coaching and has a great deal of expertise in decluttering and supporting people and making changes in their life, and we love her too. And I'm Clara Moore from Joy of Space, and I'm an accredited KonMari consultant, and I am a declutterer and professional organiser, as we all are. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. And we are all members of the... Can anyone say it?
ABDO, the Association of Professional Organising and Declutterers. Sorry, I dropped the ball on that one, and you can find us.
You can find us at
www.abdo. Oh, here's Louis, the dog.
Hello, Louis.
So he's had a bit of a drastic haircut. So you can find one of us or someone more local to your area on Abdo. I think Zem's going to bring that up for us.
Yeah, I can do that now. Let's do that. We could also do so. APDO is the UK Association of Professional Declutterers and Organisers, and wherever you are in the UK, you can find someone who can help close to you. So I'm just pulling it up now, and we've had some wonderful speakers, haven't we, ladies, on the show from ABDO and from other places on this series. So I'm going to share this screen now, and I wonder where should we could go visit somewhere in the UK. Does anyone want to go visit somewhere? We could put in a postcode and see who could be close. Right, here we go. Sharing screen. Thanks to Zoom.
What postcode would Dorset be?
Dorset, find an organiser. So for anyone out there, you go to this APDO website, go to find an organiser. Isle of Man. I want to go check out the Isle of Man.
Yeah.
Let's go see who Cheryl Murphy is on the Isle of Man.
I used to work on the Isle of Man. I don't know her. Yeah. Used to live there and work there.
Declutter me. That's I don't know. I'm a bit scared by that. I shouldn't say that, but declutter me. Oh, fantastic. Isle of Man. What's her? So she's on Facebook and Instagram, and she says, overwhelmed with clutter and don't know where to start. I provide a personal and friendly decluttering and organising service in the Isle of Man. I've always wanted to go there.
Cool. Yeah, looks good. Looks good. Yeah, there's about 380 different organisers throughout the UK. There's about 28 or so of us here in Scotland, and we all specialise in different things. So, you know, once you realise what you would like from your organiser, if you pop on and look at what we specialise in, you find the person who's best suited for you. So it's a great tool to use. So I would pop along and see how you get on.
Yeah, I'd say it's a very good starting point. And also with people going on to video support, you can have maybe a particular interest or something like photo organising or something, but you can get support from someone who's not geographically close to you. So you can also search by interest. I just wanted to say to viewers that I think several of us, and maybe the guest that we're having on soon, Sarah Macleod, are our internet's a little bit shuggly. So we'll try and, as always, sort of speak slowly and not over each other. So please just sort of bear with us and be patient. And we really appreciate you being on this call with us. And if any of you have any questions that you want to ask us throughout the show, then you can go onto the YouTube, and Elaine probably will be checking it out, seeing what questions come in. And we'll try and answer them on the show for you. But welcome. So first of all, I want to know, Elaine, how has your week been?
It's great this morning. The sun is shining here in Glasgow, but yesterday it was horrific here in Glasgow, and I had the misfortune to break down in my Clear Mountain car. So I was stuck on the side of the road for 4 hours. Thank you to 911 and Green Flag, who saved me in the end. But interestingly enough, I had just done a post a couple of days ago on National Organising Week about getting yourself ready for that sort of occasion. You know, something might happen. And I had discussed about, you know, making sure you had extra clothes in your car, that you had, you know, your emergency triangle, all these sort of things. And it all came in useful yesterday when I was stuck at the side of the road. So I did some mindfulness, I did some reading, and I waited for the 911 man to rescue me. So the car's in the garage, but I'm safe. So yeah, it was good. Yeah.
I hope you had good bladder control for 4 hours.
I'm a lady of a certain age too, so you know.
Excellent. Pelvic floor exercises. Engage.
Yeah.
That is a very timely post you did. You're the second person this week. The other person had to get the RAC out, and it was their battery that needed replaced.
Yeah, I think it's the weather, to be honest. I think the guys said to me that the horrific torrential rain and the cars aren't moving because we're in lockdown here in Glasgow. So our cars aren't moving, so our batteries aren't being charged. So he said, you know, he'd been out to loads of people, and you just have to wait. You know, he said, I'm really sorry it's taken 4 hours, but, you know, and I said, well, there's nothing you can do. So that's that thing about, you know, you have to adapt to the situation, and there's no point in me getting stressed. I was safe. I was off the road, so I was safe. But I had to just sit it out. So, you know, adapt to the situation. So came home and had
Yeah, we have that top tip from you this week. I think it was this week or it was last week. So what I'll do is at the end of this, I'll put a little, you can sort of say recommended video at the end of Zoom. So I'll do that, and then people can see. But it's a great way, because Clara, you've got kind of similar story, haven't you, from this week, working with 2 different clients and sort of responding to how you can respond to a crisis or a situation that comes up.
Yeah, I've been working with 3 different clients, and 2 of them had planned events and one of them was an unplanned event. So one client I worked with who had a planned hospital admission for a procedure, and that involved a lot, COVID tests, self-isolating, multiple back and forward. So I worked with them to prepare them, to help them prepare for going into hospital, for preparing the home for when they come out of hospital, and going in for a bit of support after they come out of hospital. And that was quite seamless, apart from obviously the stress of going into hospital during the pandemic times. And for the people in their life as well, that was quite a seamless process. One of the other people I've been working with had an unplanned hospital admission, and it tags into what your topic was last week of collecting and people with hoarding tendencies, and they really struggled to get that person out. The ambulance really struggled to get them out of their house. So I've been working with that person that was a very stressful process for them, and they're actually still in hospital because they can't get home. So I'm continuing to work with their partner and their extended family members to declutter and organise, so that we've cleared pathways, but there's still a lot of work to do. And that whole process has been the polar opposite, because of the level of stress involved, of not being able to find things that they need. So they've been two very different experiences supporting people. And the other person I've been working with is retiring. So it's been supporting them through the thoughts of that and the feelings to do with that and the actual physical belongings. So because of that, my brain's been quite busy, my body's been really busy, so I've been enjoying watching a couple of Netflix shows, one called Voices on Fire, which is about a community choir, and one Country Ever After, which is about a family supporting the mum through recovery from cancer, 8 courses of chemo, and a reversal of a colostomy, which doesn't sound that uplifting, but it really is to do with song and connection and community. Because we were talking earlier when we did a quick catch up of how we're all really missing connecting. We're all really missing being in the presence of large groups of people, and yeah, really, really missing that. And
that's my T-shirt.
Yeah, Elaine, show us your T-shirt. Go on.
Must go on.
The show must go on. The show must go on, and that's for the charity for all the different theatres, etc., around the country. So you can go online and you can buy T-shirt or a pendant or things like that just to support them, because quite a lot of the people that we work with need an outlet out of their homes, and a lot of people enjoy the theatre. I know that as a family we enjoy the theatre, and at this time of year, I mean, this time last year my niece and my sister and I were all at the Lion King enjoying all that fantastic acting and singing and dancing, and it's just a shame that this is not going on just, you know, this year. But it's really important that we try to keep these things going, because it's such an outlet for people who are experiencing other problems, you know, and it's just something to lighten up their day sometimes, isn't it?
Elaine, we were together this time last year at Calendar Girls.
Oh, so we were, yeah, yes.
Elaine, what's she called? That comedian. She's so funny. Yeah. I can see her bare bottom in my head. Because it was Calendar Girls, there was a lot of very brave nudity.
That's right. But yeah, look how.
Right, well, moving on swiftly, ladies, is the tone to the viewers. The tone of the conversation. We have to keep it up, don't we, ladies? We have to, particularly if we're on show, like bare bottoms. Anyway, my nephews would love that. Say the B word. We have a really interesting guest about to join us called Sarah McLeod. So I hope if anyone's got any comments or questions, please put them in the YouTube channel for us and we'll try and answer them. I've got one really interesting question. So Sarah's an artist and we met her. Elaine will explain actually how we met her. And what we're going to talk about is how, artists, I think, can really struggle also with a lot of clutter issues and how they can transform that or find other places. So really excited to introduce Sarah shortly. Elaine, do you want to give a wee introduction?
Yeah, so this is Sarah's going to come on here. Sarah McLeod of Hyperbolic Textiles is a company that she runs, and we met Sarah at Rags to Riches Clutter Connections, which is so Rags to Riches, as you know, we've had Blanche on from Rags to Riches telling us about the community projects, and we were in one of their shops doing what we call Clutter Connections. It's where we invite people to come in and ask us questions, and Sarah very kindly came in and asked us some questions about dealing with some inherited items. And when we got talking to Sarah, she started to tell us about some projects that she was doing as an artist. So we will have a chat like that with her about how she upcycles different materials, etc., and run some workshops. So welcome, Sarah, to our living rooms, from our homes to yours, with Dr. Zen Moffat, Clara Moore, and me, Elaine McKinlay of Joyous Space. So, I'm not of Joyous Space, Clara's of Joyous Space. Anyway, Sarah, welcome.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much for having me on, ladies. And I do remember when I first met you all at Rags to Riches, and the first time I'd ever met any declutterers, and I thought it was wonderful. I didn't even know that such a thing existed, and I did need help at that point. My decluttering journey is not over by a long shot yet, but I got immediate and direct help from all of you. I remember when Clara said to me and looked me in the eye and said, "You're not responsible for everything." And I felt a real wave of relief in that nobody had ever explained that to me before. And I thought, oh, well, that's true, and that's brilliant.
Yeah, I think that's something that we find quite a lot of people come to us or ask us to come in to help because they don't know how to. They don't know how to deal with inherited items, and I think that's it's nice that you've come on and said that. So that's fantastic.
Thank you. I'm glad that those were the words that you needed to hear that day.
Oh yes, I felt a lot better, and I think about them quite often. So there were several items. I come from a large family of artists, so there was paintings, there was textiles, there was clothes, there was books. My mother was a writer and she wrote 9 titles. So there was a lot of stuff, and it was very precious and emotional stuff, not that easy to know what to do with. And I did get direct, immediate help from these kind ladies.
We're struggling a little bit with your internet connection, Sarah, which is why the conversation's a little bit stilted, but we're all here listening and totally with you.
I just wonder if I should move. I wonder if I should move to the front of the building, and that might make a difference. So just give me a minute and I'll do that.
Do you want to try that? Okay, and we'll talk. So, Elaine, what Sarah said, does that make sense? Because I know you helped Sarah quite a lot.
Yeah, I think that I think that's something that what Sarah said is very true, and we feel responsible for a lot of the items that we have inherited. And I just did a post recently on my Facebook page about how sometimes I explain to people that it's easier to let go of these inherited items if you tell the story that goes along with it, if you share the story. And as you share the story, and then I sort of likened it to like a balloon that you let go of into the sky, where you tell the story is then released, the balloon then releases, and it goes on, and someone else may catch it and then tell the story again with that item in a different way. And it's a really useful way in coaching when you can get people to visualize that like that, because it's so stressful, and as we know, it's very emotional. Even Sarah was feeling a bit emotional there talking about it, and it's very, very hard because we do feel we have a sense of responsibility for things that have been passed down through generations, etc. But I believe that if you can tell the story to either your friends or to someone else, you have released that emotional attachment to the item, and it's slightly easier to let it go, to be passed on for someone else to tell another story about it. What do you think about that, Clara? How would you deal with inherited items? I know Con-Marie does different things.
Yeah, I would really agree with you about that. Having a conversation with yourself and the belonging, and someone witnessing that as well can be really, really helpful, can really help move things along in a way that feels respectful and gentle. And I know that, and that can be for sentimental items, but it can also be for practical items, feeling like it also is going on to be of use to someone else. I know that the 2 clients I'm working with, one had a perching stool type chair, and they were really happy to let that go to the other client who would really benefit from that after their hospital procedure. And so it's where your item's going to, as well as how you're letting go of it. But with the Con-Marie technique specifically, the reason why sentimental items are left to the last to the end category is by then you've honed your ability to really listen, to be still and tune in to yourself and how you feel about that item. So that can happen really rapidly. I worked with a lady who had not looked at her sentimental and inherited items for 20 years, and she was expecting it to be a really tough, arduous process, and she worked through it all in 45 minutes, and it was so joyful, and the relief and the weight off her shoulders. It was just a lovely thing to behold.
Sarah, were there any sort of particular ideas that came out of that Clutter Connections sort of workshop thing that you kind of took and ran with and that really worked for you? Oh no, she's frozen again. Come back, Sarah. Oh dear.
What about you, Sam, while we're waiting? How's your week been?
My week has been let me just get so what I'm really interested in sort of thinking about at the moment is the seasons actually and the changing. So being in the Forest of Dean, and I'm sleeping in a place without electricity, got like a water butt, and come up here to like use internet and stuff like that. But what I'm liking is the idea of, you know, the seasons, to let go of things, and almost like the winter is a sort of decluttering season because all the leaves fall, and then but what happens then is that you can see the wonderful outlines of the trees, and you can see the shape, and you can see the system, and then also the expectancy, because you know the leaves are going to come again. It's not a sense of loss, it's a sense of change. So I'm interested in kind of sort of reflecting upon that at the moment, is that because I know that spring always comes, I'm not experiencing a sense of loss. I'm experiencing kind of this sort of curiosity, like how the trees look now. And I think I'm trying to sort of apply that to our thinking about stuff as well. So it's not about loss. Things happen in seasons and in cycles, and you know, literally sometimes you need your woolly jumper and sometimes you don't, but so it's not missing something, because you know, I have faith and trust it's going to come again. As the sun rises every morning, it's going to come again. Spring's going to come. So I've just been sort of like mulling that over.
Oh, lovely. Look, I'll share my tree with you. Can you see my Christmas tree?
Yay!
Yay!
It's the decorations are thrown up by my daughter and pulled down again by the animals, so it's a bit of an explosion, but we've not put the lights up yet. I was saying earlier, we all seem to have started Christmas early in my neighbourhood. We've all got lights up and trees up.
Yeah, that's great.
It's interesting.
Sarah's now disappeared. She's completely gone. But do either of you have any of oh, she's back in. Let's see if she comes back in. Do either of you have any of her stuff that she's made?
I don't, but I have this, which is, I bought these in the summer, and they're your Christmas presents.
Oh, thanks. I don't need to open it now.
But these are cotton ones. They're not as beautiful as your ones, Sarah, but when things weren't open in the summer, I saw these when I was away with the children for the day, and I bought them. They're cotton. They're repurposed, recycled string and cotton, but they're not as beautiful as yours or as colourful.
Well, welcome back, Sarah.
Try
speaking. Let's see what happens.
Yes, I hope you can hear me now, and I hope that that's better. Good, great.
Yay, excellent. So we're really excited to see what you've made. So the question that I asked before the internet went down was, were there any particular ideas so that you ran with from having met us before? So I know that you were starting to speak about, you had a lot of books from your mum, but we also know that you create amazing stuff out of old tights. So go forward with one of those topics.
Fine, I'll tell you how you helped with the books, because I realised that books do not last forever. paper doesn't last forever. So I had to make some decisions based on that I couldn't hold on to every paper item. And I love paper, and old books are beautiful, but I had to move forward. So that was a good and a very clear way to decide what's going to stay and what's going to go. Along with the textiles, now I love textiles as well, and I'm inspired by old textiles, new textiles, and then this huge mountain of waste textiles that we've got. And I'm sure everybody feels the same going into charity shops, and they're just piled high. What do we do with them all? They can't all go into landfill. The tights don't break down. Tights last for, I don't know how long they actually last, but they do last a long time. So I was looking at all my old tights, all my daughter's old tights they'd finished going to school, and they had piles of tights. What can I do with them? Let's start cutting them up, see how hard wearing they are, and making them into things. And I was amazed at the versatility of the fabric. It's so strong, it's so stretchy. And I'll show you one of my bags, but it's a very straightforward net bag made of old black tights.
Wow.
I put fruit in it so you can see. I mean, every net bag that I make out of tights is slightly different, but they are very strong, very hard wearing. They shrink down to quite a small size when you're not using them, and they're washable, and they're practically indestructible. So that can tell you what tights might do in landfill, is that they don't break down. They're super, super strong. And I don't know how I don't know how tights are recycled. I've never found out, even though I've looked into it quite a long time.
So what is it you do with them? You crochet them? Is that what you do, Sarah? How do you make it into that?
I strip them down into what would be called yarn, and that is a thin strip about that size. So I take a tube of the tight leg and I cut round it in a spiral. So I end up with a ball of tight yarn. Now you can cut nylons very, very fine, and you can cut them quite thick as well, thicker tights. Like you can get yarns of of different widths, and they're really easy to crochet. I mean, I find crochet is quite an easy technique. I think it's very versatile. It's easier than knitting, and you can work with all sorts of different materials: textiles, tights, wool, yarn. So it really is what you can end up doing with crochet is quite interesting. And I've got a few more things I'll show you. Hang on.
Yeah, because you're Hyperbolic Textiles, you're obviously doing different sort of projects and making different things. So is this is part of what you're making? Ah, yeah.
Well, I mean, I love textiles, and I'm kind of obsessed, I have to say. And I don't know if that's a good thing, but it's become more obsessive during the lockdown. This was part of a kid's duvet, an old duvet cover that had a few holes in it and was not going to be used again. And I have made it into this sort of little pot container. I don't know what you might put in it. You might put your fruit in it. You might put your balls of wool in it.
I absolutely love it. It's brilliant. It's so colourful, and it seems really sturdy as well. Yes, soft but sturdy.
Yes, it's collapsible. It's machine washable, practically indestructible. I don't know. Kids could use it to.
Can you wear it as a hat as well? Looks like a good hat.
It looks so tactile. It looks like it's lovely.
It's a nice thing. That's why I like textiles. They're nice to work with.
Yeah.
And you can really go off the wall and create other things with crochet, other shapes and forms, which I really like doing. This sort of branching coral forms, and this is just normal wool. But I love doing this sort of thing, and it's I don't know if it ends up decluttering my life, because I end up with more of these things kicking about the place, but I really enjoy the exercise of making these organic forms.
And you've been teaching it as well, haven't you?
I have taught a few different workshops, and some is just purely crochet, some is how to upcycle materials, how to strip down tights, how to strip down duvet covers, and there you've got a whole bunch more materials. There is one, rag rugs. That was another thing we were making. Yeah. Now, my family, you know, three generations of women that came through the war, and make, do and mend, and every scrap was kept, every bit of string and every bit of brown paper was kept and made use of. So there was patchwork quilts and granny square crochet in my life growing up. And I think, well, that use of waste materials really appeals to me. I can't stand throwing things out. And those are the women that have problems with in our modern world with decluttering, because they simply can't throw anything out, and therein lies the problem.
Yeah,
so
I think we find that. Sorry, Zen, for speaking over you there. But I think you're right, Sarah. When we go into places, you know, and then we go to the linen cupboard, you know, it's full of the old blankets, you know, that might come in useful at some point, you know, but they're very heavy. They take up a lot of room, etc. And people are trying to minimize things. It's very difficult, and they don't want to give it away or to go to landfill. So a project like yours, if there was a sort of you know, some way for us to get this stuff to you, and then for it all to go into art projects, would be a fantastic thing for us to get involved with.
I still do take donations of tights, and you can do that through Rags to Riches. Rags to Riches have a huge stash of their own donated fabrics, wools. It's beautiful. And I think that if you go into, you know, many people have their own yarn stash and their own fabric stash. And the thing about fabrics is that the older stuff, old worn cotton sheets, translate very nicely into these containers. Hang on. A bit like this.
Oh.
Yeah, oh, that's lovely. Yeah.
So the more worn in the cotton is, the nicer it can look when you do crochet it up. And the difference between old fabrics and new fabrics is really quite pronounced. Natural fibres compared to our modern, more plastic fibres.
Sarah, we have a question for you from one of our members in Glasgow, Eleanor, and she asks, she'd be curious to know where ideas come from, and also how to recognise what can be useful versus what really does need to head for the bin. So how can you speak to either of those? Like, where do your ideas come from? Where do they start from? And then how do you decide, no, I can't do that?
I've thought about this, and I think artists have always used materials that they're surrounded by. For instance, shells or wood, whatever is close to hand, whatever they have a lot of, they wish to turn it into something decorative, surround themselves with it. So just purely by being surrounded by textiles, discarded clothes, old tights, I kept looking at them thinking, what can be done? What can I do? And I've also always been keen on crochet, and crochet it allows itself to be used in a free-form way, in a way that knitting is much more structured. You have to know what your beginning and your end point is with your knitting, whereas with crochet you can let your imagination go wild. And first of all, I thought, well, I don't really like these tights, but tights is a really amazing fabric, as I've said, and I really wanted to sort of push the limits of it to see how far I could take it. So I like making bags, objects, freeform sculptures. I'm not very good at doing the same thing over and over again. I'm not a machine. I get bored. I'm only good at doing one-offs.
A free spirit.
Yeah. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. But what's the difference between you then, or how would you and someone with someone would say, oh, she's just hoarding this stuff. So could you argue that you're not hoarding the stuff, or do you think you are, or like what's the difference? So I think Clara, Elaine, and I've all worked with artists, and I enjoy art, and for me it's about transformation, creation, and activity. And like you, I move on. I use the medium close to hand, but I'm not necessarily attached to the medium. I'm fascinated by it. Really, like with this Zoom, I'm kind of fascinated by how it works and how I can do it. But next year I might move on to something else.
Yes.
So what is it that you think is different to if we work with clients who are really kind of stuck in stuff and have all this stuff around compared to you? Or do you think you are the same?
I don't know. I mean, everybody's different. I think I'm a Gemini. I think that shows, and I get bored and I skip on to the next thing and the next thing. But one thing I've always, since I was a little girl, I was a little greenie, and I hated litter, and I was worried about the dolphins getting caught in fishing nets ever since I was, so the ecological side of waste has always affected me. So if I had an old cotton sheet that was a bit shredded, and I thought, right, I'm not going to use that again, it has to go in the bin. I wouldn't feel so bad about binning it as I would a whole bunch of nylon tights that I know are not going to break down, and they're going to be a choking thing going into landfill. I mean, I really do. I've asked many people, including Viridor, what they do with old tights, but I can't get a straight answer.
So Viridor people out there are the company that do the recycling in Glasgow. So
yeah. So they're a very interesting company as well. What they separate everything, and so I've always been kind of interested in waste. So that would definitely makes a difference between me, what I would throw out and what I would try to find a use for. Try to highlight the fact that people are buying this most disposable piece of fashion that they might only wear once, and then what happens to it?
So it's your ecological principles. It's a real kind of guttural instinct, like this needs to be part of the cyclical transformation.
Definitely a drive for me. And the realization of textile waste has really climbed in the past few years, and just how destructive the whole textile industry is. And that's great that that's come to the fore.
Clara.
Absolutely love things that have been made from something that are pre-loved. Unlike you, I don't crochet. I do knit, and I knitted my children blankets, but I love to upcycle, and I upcycled this old dresser, and nice. Which was dark wood. You can see I didn't do the inside but it was dark wood, and I advertised it. I had it for 7 years. And then one day I just thought, do you know what? I think I'm ready to let that go. That's time for it to go to someone else. I always wanted one. So I advertised it on Facebook Market page for a small amount to get someone who would love it as well. And I was inundated by people, because people love something that's been pre-loved and that's been upcycled. Anytime I've ever advertised something, it's always something that's been made or pre-loved that gets the most interest, rather than plastic, kids' plastic toys that I really resent them having, but I have to let them be kids.
I know. Yeah, I've got a thing about plastic as well. Yeah.
I was going to say, Clara, I think that's really interesting, because also we spoke about how it going into a good home. And so you found that if you pass something on which has been cared for, and which you kind of present in a way that shows that it's been cared for, then it goes really quickly. So there's something about the love that you've invested with it. But how do you choose what to let go of, Clara? I mean, because was it just a thought, like after 7 years, it's no longer. I mean, there's two things in what you've said. One is your decision to let go, or to give it away, and second is how you've done it. So.
Well, for me, it was because that particular piece of furniture, when I had a life experience, I think I spoke about it in the first season, when my marriage broke down with my ex-husband, the father of my children, we were homeless, and I worked for the NHS, and the office that I worked with, the department, they put together a card and some money, which I was so touched, and it was so unexpected. I just burst into tears. I think it was about £70, and I bought that with it, and the kids and I upcycled it, and so it was a really lovely experience for us. We chose it together. There used to be a beautiful place in the south side that was like this magical trove of a kingdom that you walked in, like caves with wonderful pictures and pieces of furniture, and I got it from there. And one day I was just looking at it and thinking, do you know what, I'm ready to let that go now. It doesn't fit in with what we have now. We're not really using it as a display, and we're just storing the kids' things in it that they've made. There's a better way to use the kids' things, and that could go to someone who'll actually use it and love it in a way that we are not. It was just a part of the wallpaper to us that wasn't really being loved in the same way. And plus, I think I said to you, we got a new wall hanging, so we've changed the decoration a wee bit. I don't know if you can see that. So we were ready to change some things in the house, because like everybody, when you're stuck at home during lockdown, you're looking at your life, you're looking at your home, you're looking at your belongings. So it was a very easy way to let it go. And it was just lovely how many people had contacted me and said, oh, I've just been looking for that. And I had to keep saying, I'm sorry, it's pending collection. And it was literally a flurry of people.
And so it was a time to change. Elaine, we've got the course coming up at Strathclyde next year, and these subjects come up quite a lot during the course and the questions. I was wondering if you could just sort of say a little bit the stories that have been picked up, if you can draw out the wisdoms.
Yeah, I think obviously we have our course at the University of Strathclyde's Lifelong Learning Centre. And it's online at the moment, so you can do it virtually from wherever you are in the country. So please, if you're interested, go onto the Strathclyde website. But very interestingly, as Sam said, when we were in-house and we were in the classroom and people came in and they were telling us their stories, probably about 30% of the room were there because of inherited items or items that they felt that they had an obligation to keep, because these had been passed down through the generations, but these people knew that they couldn't, it was taking up too much room in their homes, and also their children, they didn't want this stuff. So they felt they were trapped in, what do I do? How do I let go of this stuff? And part of our time on the course is that we sort of deconstruct how to look at decluttering, and all the things that have been mentioned here is what we discuss, and it's about us being able to let go of items at the right time and in the right way. So Clara's mentioned it was the right time for her to let go of the pieces of furniture. Sarah's mentioned that she's, the amount of items that were around from the generations before her, it was the right time for her to understand that letting go of the paper or the books, etc., it was the right time. And I think that's quite key to any decluttering process. When is the right time for you? Because we can't come in and say, this is now the time that you're going to have to get rid of all this stuff. Are you emotionally ready to let go of this? And that's something that we help to guide people through. So if you are interested in something like that or learning a little bit more about that, then pop along to the University of Strathclyde's Lifelong Learning website and pop onto our course. Now, it starts in January and there are limited places, and the places are already going. But also what's happening is that the university are now providing gift vouchers, that if you wanted to explain something to your family that maybe you would like to go on the course and that this would be a good experience for you, then you can get a voucher to come on to the course. And as I said, it's on Zoom, so you can sit in your own living room and you can see us helping you from our living rooms to help you with that. So moving from chaos to calm, it's in the health and well-being section of the University of Strathclyde's website.
And the gift vouchers are a great idea, but maybe check that if you are thinking about gifting it to someone, that they're ready for it and will take it in the right way. I was saying to everybody earlier on that one of my friends, by her ex-mother-in-law, was given a gym membership and a clothing voucher, and with the comment, that'll maybe help you with your back fat, with your bra straps, that'll maybe help you get your body back together. So do check that it will be taken in the right way, that the person's ready for it, and that it will be a gift that will give them joy, not stress.
Yeah, gift giving, that's a topic coming up for next week. But Sarah, I think what we're covering as well, because the course is part of the university's health and well-being, and I know you've got something in your life that really supports your health and well-being, because I heard a radio broadcast about it. But could you tell the viewers about that?
Yes, of course. And I'm delighted and very lucky to have my off-grid hut that's just north of Glasgow in a community of hutters. I think there's 120 huts up there. And it's a very simple structure. It's not quite a garden hut, it's a wee bit bigger, but it's just one room and it's off-grid, and it has, but I have a solar panel, so I have some lights and a wood fire. So as far as sort of decluttering from the modern world, I know that I can go there and there's no electricity, there's no devices. As a matter of fact, there is Wi-Fi, but really it's up to you to disconnect from your own devices if you choose. And I do things like digging ditches for drainage, because there's a lot of rain up there. In fact, it's constant rain, and walking in amongst the trees. And I started a community garden. So that's a real way of decluttering my mind, I find. And I know I'm very fortunate. Not everybody has that, but we're all fortunate in Glasgow in that we can get to an amazing, beautiful bit of countryside in about 20 minutes because we're surrounded by it.
And I was interested on the radio programme that you said that actually what people don't realise, it's actually quite a lot of hard work.
Yes, it is.
I think this is what surprises me. So within the group sort of Clutter Chat and within clients, there's this dawning realisation that actually household maintenance takes a bit of work and they realise that actually they need to do some stuff. And a lot of people don't realise that cleaning and tidying is actually part of decluttering as well. And I know that, like, I used to sort of live in a place that kind of ran off wood, and actually the joy of like chopping down the wood, putting it in the Stanley, having hot water, having a bath from the hot water from the wood that I chopped with the stew cooking on the stove, and just feeling that kind of immense sense of satisfaction. To be fair, that did not happen every day, but when you get it, it's amazing. And then I moved to Glasgow, and I was like, what? I just turn the switch on and I get hot water. And I've got to I don't chop wood, I've got to earn money to pay the meter. I'm like, what's this about? But so it kind of, hutters it's a new word to me as well. But what is it that you're learning from the experience, or what is it that it helps you get in balance?
The hard work, I'm no gardener. So this is my first year sort of trying to grow my own veg. So every potato, every tiny leek and courgette is just like, wow, I made that and it tastes so brilliant. And, you know, I want that to grow, obviously, and keep doing it. So it's this double, keeping a garden or growing your own vegetables keeps you healthy, because you're bending and stretching, you have to be outside all the time, and then eating the veg keeps you healthy. So it's that double, it's the older generation that went through the war and dug for victory, and it kept them healthy on a double level. The same with chopping wood. It warms you up when you chop it, and then it warms you up when you burn it. So those sort of very simple ways of living that we have a bit, I don't know, bit disconnected from. That is what I'm very fortunate to go back and be able to do that.
You're
simple
really
things.
inspiring me, Sarah. You're really inspiring me. I lived for a couple of years in a farmhouse, and I have a Gemini daughter and a Gemini mother. So my wee 8-year-old Gemini daughter, I think I'm going to get her outdoors more. You're really inspiring me.
Yeah, because Clara, you've got a nice sort of bit of grass outside, and I'm wondering if sorry to interrupt, Sarah, but Clara and Elaine, if there's sort of ideas for us city dwellers about how we can kind of bring some of this joy or realization of what last week we had. Was it last week or the week before we had Nina on, who had kind of recreated her front garden? But Elaine, is there any ideas that you've got? If for access reasons, for money, for just physical ability, you can't get out, you have to work with what's around you, then what ideas do we have?
I think that, you know, the Swedish hygge lifestyle that I promote within my company is that you bring, sometimes it's good to bring the outdoors in. And I think people forget that, you know, you can grow a few wee things on your windowsill, you know, and you have to tend to them, and you have to, you know, water them, and just like ourselves. So it's about connecting nature with us, which then gives a sense of well-being. And I think lockdown has shown quite a lot of people who weren't gardeners or didn't particularly like the outdoors, but because we were in this state of lockdown, that we had to look for different things to occupy us, that a lot of people turned to gardening and started to grow their own, you know, bits and pieces as a first time in the garden, like Sarah. I mean, our garden's a dry garden, which means there's no grass or anything like that. But what we do have is that we do have high vegetable pots that are up quite high. And we've grown lots of things through the summer. We are not big vegetable growers or anything like that, but we have taken joy in growing just a few things. Lovely little lettuces, you know, and as Sarah says, they taste better because you've seen them as seed, you've seen them grow, you've nurtured them. And I think sometimes we need to combine the nurturing in the garden and the vegetables with the nurturing that we want to give ourselves. And, you know, our home environment can nurture us if we look after it. So I think it's a good lesson to bring everything together.
Clara, do you have thoughts?
I'm not green fingered, so I've not been doing any vegetable growing, but I was going to show you this. This was from a roof tile that Nina's neighbour painted this for her as a thank you for the work that she'd done in her garden. When you mentioned Nina sent this through for us to see.
Lovely.
So that was really a lovely thing. And I actually bumped into Nina and her neighbour chatting to each other, and her neighbour was just thanking her again for her wonderful garden, the work, because Nina obviously did the garden on one side and then the neighbour's garden on the other side. But yes, I would like to do a bit more vegetable growing, because I think you're very right, Elaine and Sarah, that nurturing yourself is so important, and taking that time to care for what you're putting into your body is really important, and really connects you with your choices that you're making for the environment, for the world, for yourself, for your family. Yeah, I agree.
And I think there's also ways that if your space is very kind of limited, but in Glasgow we've got quite a few community gardens that you can join in on. Or even just when you're at the shops, you can look to buy local veg and just start to get that connection with your food and where it's grown. So my parents this week have just bought, they get a veg box, and they've got one which is just for UK veg or local veg. So we're a bit concerned we're just going to get neeps and tatties, but we're going to go with it and see what else we might get. So I think there's also ways that if you haven't got, or if you don't have the knowledge, like I joined community gardens and I just learned so much, and it was just a couple of hours a week. It wasn't arduous, it wasn't onerous. But there are ways of sort of city living and growing plants inside, or just even having a picture of the sea or a picture of something just to kind of start those connections. I think a sort of small steps that we can do to give us those ideas. Sarah's had an idea. She's an artist. She's got another idea.
Yes, but this is something particular to the COVID times where, and I meet my fellow hutters and we have a big smoky bonfire, and we're outside, we're able to speak to each other, we're able to be in the same zone as each other without getting too close. And it really does, I love that. I love the smell of the bonfire in the autumn time and being able to stand around and chat. The garden really brings people together, even though we're not meant to be together, but we can be around a big sort of smoky bonfire, all pitching in.
And you're making me laugh because we're in our pre-chat. You were saying that even you're starting to miss people that you don't necessarily kind of even have liked that much. And,
I know.
And it's great because I think that's the idea, that in these sort of smoky bonfire atmospheres, or when you're out in kind of public, or you have these kind of formal, semi-formal gatherings, you can rub alongside people who you wouldn't necessarily want a heart-to-heart with, but you're glad that they're in the world.
Yes, absolutely. Just a shape of another human through the smoke. You're like that, yes. I'm not alone.
Sarah, I'd really like to thank you for coming onto the show. It's been absolutely brilliant. And
thanks for having me.
Elaine, do you want to, I haven't prepped you for this, but do you want to tell people our idea for the show next week, which will be our last show?
Okay, so I think our last show, we are going to try and bring together as many people as we can that we've had on this sort of season of, or this sort of series of our Clutter Talk Live, because we all felt that we needed a little party,
Show them your T-shirt, Elaine. Show them your T-shirt.
So the show must go on. And I think that our idea was that we would bring together, because we are all missing human contact. We can't touch each other, but we can see our smiley faces, and you can hear our silly stories, which is just part of life, isn't it? And also you can watch Clara battle with every animal under the sun, actually, in front of you.
It's capsized its kitten tree. It's you see that? It just caught it in the nick of time before it capsized the key.
So there is a professional declutterer who has chaos going on in the background while we are online. So we're going to try and bring as many people together just for a wee 5-10 minutes here, there, and everywhere. So we would love for you to join us if you could.
Yeah, Sarah, if you can join us, and we invite everybody to wear. Excellent. And we invite everybody to wear silly Christmas outfits or whatever outfit you want. And also what we'd like to do is talk about gifts and what gifts we're giving and how we can give gifts, because one of the critical issues is that people find it difficult to let go of things that have been given to them. So we're going to have a slightly serious topic about gift giving and a more hilarious party where we all look utterly foolish and try and have a good time in our Zoom living room. So from our homes to yours, we wish you all a very, very good week.
Yeah.
Thanks
for watching.
Thanks for watching.
Subscribe.
Oh, yeah.
Subscribe.